right, so since we have a quorum, I'm calling the Park Commission to order at 5:02 p.m. And the formalities of this, let me do a quick roll call. John Palumbo.
Present.
Awesome. Recreation Director Kayla Wright.
Present.
DPW Director Jack Roddiquenz. Jack, can you hear us?
You're muted, Jack.
Jack.
How's that?
Perfect. And
Thank
we
you.
have Heather Lemieux. All right, so the legalities of it all. In accordance with the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and will be broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access Channel, and that the meeting of the Lunenburg Park Commission is being conducted remotely. Accordingly, for those that are participating via video, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything you broadcast may be captured in the recording. Do I need to do the whole COVID piece?
I would just.
Okay, let's just do it. The town of Lunenburg, in response to the COVID-19, is currently following the guidance from the Lunenburg Board of Health, Massachusetts Department of Public Health, and the CDC regarding the virus and steps communities can take to prevent the spread. All town facilities are currently closed to the public, and in accordance with the governor's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, general law, chapter 30A, section 20, all public meetings are being conducted remotely. The order, which you can find posted on the town website on the COVID-19 Information Center page, can be accessed to the town manager's webpage, allows for public bodies to meet entirely remotely, so as long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. All right, so we're good there. Let's get this party started. Oh, hold on, Susanna's trying to get in. Check. Susanna's having town difficulties getting on, so we can catch up with her when she logs in. All right, so we're open. If it's all right with you, John, I'm going to skip the approval of the February and April minutes until Susanna can get on.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're on to Kayla and Jack. Any updates on your side?
Hey, Kayla, you've been doing a lot of the work.
So I sent it to you guys. It was a little, I sent it at like 4 o'clock. It was a little last minute because I sent it with the beach control plan. But I went to the virtual Board of Health meeting on Monday to hear about all their guidelines and things like that, and any updates they had on guidelines for beaches, camps. And I do have a beach control plan. However, I would say it's only 99% complete because I am waiting to hear back from Jim from Board of Health. I was hoping I would hear back from him before the meeting today, but no such luck. But I do have that plan. I don't know, you guys probably haven't looked at it, but I don't know the feasibility of it opening anytime before July 1. If we choose to open, I just don't see being able to get everything in order and adhere to all the guidelines before then. And I have virtual programs for almost the whole month of June and pretty much the whole month of July, because I just got all the camp and rec program regulations, and I just, again, don't think anything would be possible, and I don't know how comfortable parents would be with anything before the end of July, beginning of August, and even then if it's possible. So a lot of the vendors that I'm working with have also said that they'd prefer to do virtual programs until at least August. So all of those are going to be going up online by Monday with registration to open. And I'll put out social media posts and everything like that for that.
Kayla, can I ask one question in there?
Yes.
Is
Yep.
there a way to subscribe? I'm new to my rec like everybody else is in town. Is
Yep.
there a way to subscribe so that when you add programming, an email automatically goes out?
Yeah, so when you create an account, if you checked off to receive notifications, you'll, as soon as all the programs are up, an email goes out with all of the programs that were just listed that have registration open. So as long as you have it checked off in your account that you want to receive the notifications, you'll receive that email.
Okay.
And if for some reason you don't know, I can always go in the account and check.
No, I haven't fooled with it too much because the age groups of the kids that I have in our house didn't meet anything. So I don't know if I checked anything off. I don't know if I created an account. I was just curious so that folks who, maybe signing up, we can say to them, subscribe so you see where the updates or when.
Yeah, as long as they have the notification checked off on their account, they'll get all the emails that go out once the programs are up. And then once any type of announcement goes out, they'll receive all of those notifications.
Okay, perfect.
And then I've been having some questions on the fields. I've been working with Joe from the Phillies. They are hoping to have some type of a season. He did actually submit a control plan to me. I haven't had a chance to fully look at it, but he's kind of waiting to hear from me on what the status of the fields from our standpoint is. And I also talked to Steve from Little League. They're again kind of waiting to hear from me after this meeting. They haven't done any type of control plan or anything like that. They're more so waiting to hear from us about the status of the fields and things like that. And they hadn't gotten, when I had talked to Steve, they hadn't gotten any of the guidelines yet. I don't even think I got the guidelines when I talked to Steve. So now that I have the guidelines, I'll touch base with him after the meeting. But I believe he said that they were going to, depending on how the guidelines were, they were going to try and have a short season as well. But all their families are still kind of in limbo, just waiting right now.
Okay, thank you.
And all the applicants for the beach, I did touch base with them after the governor released the plan, the phases, saying that we were having a commission meeting and we were going to talk about the beach, and then I would update everybody after the meeting. So everybody, I've been in touch with everybody as far as what's going on with the beach and everything like that.
Excellent. Thank you so very much. All right, so Susanna, hi.
Hi, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Sorry about the delay.
That's okay. So we held off on minutes just because you weren't here yet, and I wanted to make sure that there were no changes before.
No, I'm good. They were good.
Let me circle back up to those. So we have the meeting minutes from February 2020 in front of us, as well as April of 2020. Anybody have any changes?
No.
No.
I get a motion to approve both of those.
I'll make a motion to approve both those.
Second.
Excellent. All in favor for that?
Aye.
Aye. Actually, we're supposed to do a roll call on that, correct? All right, so let me do it individually. John?
Aye.
Susanna?
Aye.
And I from myself. Excellent, thank you. All right, Susanna, some emails went out late. Included would have been one from Kayla on the update, and she just went over that. Now, do you have any questions on things that you didn't hear?
No, I've had tech issues all day, so I'm gonna read. I just saw the tennis lessons and social distancing. I just perused it really quickly, but I'll read through it and email you directly, Kayla, if I have any questions. Is that okay? Okay.
All right, so the next thing, Jack, do you have anything to update us on before I go to the beach?
Yeah, I do. I think I mentioned this last meeting that I've been keeping up with the fields in anticipation of getting some sort of season started. But for another reason, that it's good for the turf and aesthetically. I will have to do some work on the infields. So I was hoping at this meeting or soon we'd have some sort of direction as to a timeline. I mean, if we don't, we don't. There's no problem. Kayla's been helping me with the procurement to, get the old bathrooms torn down at Marshall. Been talking about that for a while, but just recently that took up, got ratcheted up. The police have had an issue over there with some things that they asked me not to talk about because they're in the middle of an investigation. So the numbers are pretty low. I believe Kayla has 3 of them. So we're gonna go ahead and schedule that and get that done. I'm in the last stages of the demo permit and the hazardous materials survey. So that should be done very soon. She's also been helping me with the procurement and the numbers on the resurfacing and the relining of the Wallace Park basketball court. Got a little tied up in there with combis, but I believe we're making pretty good progress there. It's under $25,000. So if we can't get it done, it's still early in June. I'm sure we can sign a contract and encumber those funds. I know there's been some concern at the playground that the merry-go-round was broken. I went over there with a few guys. We pulled it off its base, took the concrete out. We've got it back at the garage. There was some less than desirable structural techniques used. So we're going to take care of that. Nothing else comes to mind.
Jack, on that tilt-a-whirl, does it look like it was physically picked up, or do you think it was attached to a vehicle to try to pull that out?
It wasn't attached to a vehicle. There's a weak spot where all that weight comes down and meets the concrete. And that is not only the most stressful point, but from top to bottom on that cylinder, it's also the weakest point and the thinnest point. Everything else is solid or a heavy sleeve right there. For some reason, the solid sleeve doesn't go through. And of course, that's the torque point. So it doesn't surprise me that it broke. As soon as we can get some time, we've got a plan to fix it, and then we'll have to pour some concrete. So in the meantime, I know there's been some crapola going on social media, not surprisingly, but there's other things kids can play on there. And we'll get to that as soon as we can. My summer kids have been down at the beach, taking all the weeds that usually grow up and clean that up. I think we're going to have somebody there pressure washing the building shortly, right, Kayla? And I'm going to have Lakeview come in and tune the beach up. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with the beach. It's obvious, something or nothing, or when and when not, but I'm going to go ahead and like the fields and clean it up and get ready for the season. If the season doesn't happen, it's really not lost money. I think for no other reason than the aesthetics of the town property, it'll be ready to go. Plus, if we hear that we're ready to go on anything, the fields, the beach, we'll already be right in gear. We won't be running around last minute trying to do something.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What are the rules about the beach? I saw people there today.
What?
Yeah, on the beach.
Well, I guess there's,
Kayak? Was there a kayak with it, Susanna?
There was a like a donut floaty thing,
It floated over from one or the other.
Yeah. But I mean, we can't police that or anything. I mean, there's no need, right?
no, I mean, you think they came over from the condos?
Well, they definitely didn't. The gate wasn't open or
Yeah,
anything.
right, yeah.
There wasn't a car parked outside the beach or anything.
I feel like that, like I feel about the fields. We're not in the business of being the field police. So,
Right.
but I'm glad one more thing with the up to date, that double gate, it just came in today, Kayla. We're going to put a handicap mat. It's sort of a ramp, all-purpose ramp that you put right on sand. You might have seen them at the beach. And you'll be able to come in. The handicapped entrance will be that double gate, hook a right, and then we have I'm sure it's ordered by now, we have an ADA picnic table. So we'll have a pretty cool access to get in for anybody that has a disability.
Excellent. And that gate is usually unlocked or locked when the beach is open? Do we know?
Locked. It's never really used unless we're doing maintenance on it or something large has to go in and out, but that's where the beach manager will have to she can unlock it. We can put a sign there. And I don't think we'll be able to leave it open because of the proximity to the road, but certainly there'll be somebody on duty there to open
Can
it.
you,
And that's where the,
knowing that Matt's going to be there, Jack, some sort of either cones or something be provided down there so that it can be put in front of that gate so nobody either parks right in front of it or parks too close to it?
we can do the cones. We can have an
Just
HB
something.
symbol painted there.
Just because I know that when, especially during the swim lesson season, I don't know if we're gonna have one this year, but in the past when there is one, they tend to hug that gate pretty good just because, or the fence line, just because there's parking on both sides going on and they're trying to, give as much road space as they can. So
Right.
just something to think about.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Anything else on your front?
For me, park related, though.
Okay, excellent. All right, so let's move to the beach. I don't know the best way, Kayla, to handle this. Heather, did you get a copy of what she sent out? Did you include her, Kayla?
I don't think so, no. I can send it to you right now, Heather.
You sent it over to Jack too if he wasn't on that list?
He was on that list, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So Kayla, let me let you send that, and then why don't you hit some of the highlights on this reopening?
Yep.
We can throw out some concerns. I want this beach to, if we open it, it needs to be opened safely and everybody has to be on board with it opening. If there's a concern, I personally don't think that the beach, it doesn't have to open. If there's too many concerns, then it's dead in the water before we even get started. So I guess I just want to make sure everybody's aware that this is not a done deal. This is just the discussions on whether or not there's enough in the plan to possibly reopen it, to open it safely. This beach is a unique piece of property in that it's narrow and it's fenced off, and it doesn't have, it's not like some of the other beaches in the area that are bigger. We're rectangular shaped. A lot of the other beaches in the area are more square shaped and bigger than us. So if we can't open it, then we can't open it. And if we can, then I think that the members of our community would be appreciative of being able to utilize that beach this summer. So anyway, that's my.
So I just sent it to you, Heather, but I can go over like the regulations and then kind of the plan that I put together. I will say that I plan to go down to the beach. I just need access to it to see if we can map out the sections that are required, because that's one thing that I don't know yet. But basically the guidelines, everybody is still required to wear a mask. However, it doesn't say anywhere in there that lifeguards have to wear a mask. So that's one of my questions for Jim, is if the lifeguards have to wear a mask. Masks need to be worn except if they're in the water. Masks aren't required if they're in the water. There's still no groups larger than 10. However, I'm trying to get clarification if that means 10 altogether on the beach or 10 individual groups. So let's say, the 6 of us went to the beach as one group. Can another group of 6 come? That's over 10, but of groups, individual groups, it's not. So that's one of my questions for Jim as well. The total adequate distancing for ingress and egress and transit across the beach, a minimum of 12 feet distance between toweling / beach blankets in groups. So that's something that because I haven't been at the beach for a season yet, and I honestly can't see it through well enough through the gate. So I need to go down there to see if that's even a possibility.
You let me know anytime you want to go down there, Kayla.
Okay. And then there has to be a 6-foot perimeter around the lifeguard stands, because the lifeguards have to remain 6 feet away from all visitors unless it's an emergency situation. Any type of like picnic area or seatings. Like Jack said, we do have an ADA picnic table that has been ordered for there. However, in phase 1, all of those types of areas cannot be open yet. So any type of seating that would be for people that didn't come together in a group has to be closed in phase 1. Admissions, basically they want it to be contactless as anywhere possible, with some type of reservation system if possible, which it is possible through MyRec. I will say that that's one thing about MyRec is it can be a contactless entry and everything like that, because we can issue cards and they can scan themselves in and they can scan themselves out, which also doubles as the recording feature of all visitors and all staff that are at the beach. Everybody coming to the beach would scan in and then they would scan out as well. So we'd have the timestamp on it and all of their information in the system.
Sorry,
There's,
Kayla, does that include their phone number?
yes, so when they signed up in the system, they'd have to list their name, phone number, address, emergency contact, everything, basically, email, everything like that. So it would give us all of that information. And then their age as well with their date of birth. The restroom areas, again, this is one of the reasons I need to visit there, and I'm sure you guys could tell me a little bit better. Need to make sure that we are maintaining 6 feet in the restroom areas. So basically in the entranceway, 6 feet, like markers, each 6 feet would have to be marked out. Restroom areas, 6 feet would have to be marked out. We have to have sanitizer stations, at least one somewhere that's accessible to the public, whether that be at the entrance, whether that be at the entrance to the restroom, but it has to be somewhere.
Kayla, do we have to open up the restrooms?
That's one of my questions for Jim as well. If the beach is open, do we have to have the restrooms open to the public? So that, I don't know. That's on my list of questions for him.
That might be a nice little built-in time budget sort of thing to keep the numbers lower on the beach, is to not have that open. Come in, take a dip, and don't hang out.
Exactly.
So that's basically an overview of the main guidelines. And then to make the control plan, I'm just going to touch upon some of the things, and then you guys can kind of look at it on your own and then get back to me, and I can revise it and send it out to everybody again and things like that. But I had basically used the template that Heather had sent me, as well as the town employee control plan that Heather had sent out. I had used both of those as kind of a guide. And just going through, again, one of the things that was there is masks. And like I said, I have to ask Jim if that means that all employees have to wear masks. And if it does, we'd have to supply them, and they'd be encouraged to also bring their own from home. The control plan basically the same exact as for the town employees is, you know, the strict stay-at-home policy, things like that. If they're sick, what to do. If they're sick at work, what happens. But more so directly related to the beach, specifically is the main thing is all the distancing is what I'm concerned about, is if we are able to comply with that. And also all the supplies that would be required. For instance, the restroom facility would need to be professionally cleaned and disinfected in accordance to the CDC guidelines pertaining to outdoor recreation facilities. So that's something that I'd have to look into the cost and the timeline for that. And then the restrooms would have to be, they'd have to be cleaned daily by the staff, which is fine, you know, disinfectant products, wipes, things like that. But then once a week, they'd have to be disinfected, heavily, like a deep clean disinfectant. But to get supplies and things like that, I have been looking at it, and the earliest supplies would come for those types of supplies is the end of June. I'm not sure if, and I'm going to I was going to actually ask you, Heather or Kit, if the town has any type of account with anybody that can get them quicker if we did decide to open the beach. But basically all the places that I've looked, it says that we wouldn't get any of the supplies basically till the end of June.
Yeah, we're having, you know, just as much difficulty getting supplies. Both Kit, the facilities director, my assistant Elaine, she's been working on getting supplies. So we have enough right now for employees working, but that's why we're, you know, we'll be working slowly towards reopening to the public as well, because that's going to increase the demand for supplies.
Yeah, so that's one of the big concerns for me is the distance requirements between each group, as well as all the supplies needed. And the check-in area would have to be really looked at to see if we did need to, even though it could be all touchless by us, the scanner and everything with the scan cards through MyRec. The space that's there, would we have to put any type of plexiglass up to make a barrier for the employees that would be manning that station? So those are the types of things that need to be looked at, because they are in the control plan and they are a requirement for us to be able to open. So it's just a matter of determining the feasibility as well as the timeliness that all the supplies could get to us, and then if the distance requirements can be met on the beach.
I had read in one of the guidance documents that lifeguards were required to wear masks if they. I'll try to find that. But I recall seeing that.
I'm sorry, what was that? Yours was breaking up a little bit, Heather.
I had read in one of the guidance documents that lifeguards were required to wear masks, except in the water, and unless they were able to social distance enough space from everyone else.
Yeah, because the guidance I had, it just said all beach visitors, which is why I had planned on asking Jim if that meant the lifeguards too. But it also says then that 6 feet has to be, you know, a 6 feet area around the lifeguard stand has to be established. So if they were 6 feet away from everybody, would they have to wear a mask? Those are the types of things that I'm hoping to get some clarification on.
Kayla, excuse me, or the rest of you guys, would it be a possibility? It seems like, first of all, we got to get you in touch with Kit, okay, and see what you need for supplies, and if it's even possible to, once we get them, if we can sustain the need. How do you folks feel about just eliminating the house itself? I mean, we talk about coming through that double gate. Obviously, it's not optimum, but you could control the in and out with one half of that gate. Would take some policing by the manager, but then you just eliminate all that, the stations and the 6 feet apart inside, and just have people like they're doing on the ocean beaches. They're just here, they're wandering around. Like Susanna said, they take a dip, they hang out for a while and gone.
Yeah, I like that idea.
I think it eases some of it. I guess we still have it. I think even if the public didn't go in the building, our employees would have to use that building. So I don't think it changes anything on the requirements of, say, deep cleaning the bathroom 1 time a week. Because the town office bathrooms are still the same way, correct, Heather? And that their cleaning requirements are still the same, whether there's employees in the public or just employees in there.
Right. Yeah. The one other issue that I had read was parking. That has to be addressed as well. So there's enough. It has to be limited so that there's enough space for people entering, exiting as well.
Well, I think if it was, I don't know, if somehow if we ended up doing this and we did reservations, I think that in itself would would be limiting parking, mainly because we can only fit so many people. That's why I say that piece of land is just unique to what our beach is, because it's long, it's narrow, and it's on a hill. So the most likely places people are going to sit are going to be probably more up towards that fence. So I think that would automatically limit it. And we don't have a typical parking lot, so you're not pulling in next to somebody where you're getting out of your cars door to door. You're getting out of your car, so it's hood to trunk, that type of thing. As much as I want to see this beach open, I share the same concerns that I think everybody has with supplies and with making sure the facility is following the proper guidelines for cleaning. I don't know how many staff it would take to pull that off. And I don't even know if we would even have that staff if we wanted to try to pull it off. Because as of right now, we've got one beach director application and a slew of lifeguard applications, but it doesn't mean everybody's available the same hours at this, maybe somebody was only looking for part-time and maybe we need all full-time. I don't know. I guess I would defer to Kayla on that piece. I just don't want to get into a situation where we open it up and it's just not going to be workable. Even just based on supplies. I don't know, John, Susanna?
I agree, and I think that it's hard to be asking these lifeguards that are applying to be hanging around and waiting for the scraps of employment that they might be getting. I mean, I guess it's probably, it's statewide for sure, so they don't have some other job to go to probably, but maybe they do. And what if we just open for swim lessons?
That's what I was going to say. I feel like we can control that a lot better because we can say,
It's a head count.
groups of 5, that's it,
I don't even, based on the guidelines that came out, I'm not sure we're nowhere near swim lessons. I question whether or not we would even be near baseball. The guidelines that came out in the past few days, it's not just contact sports, it's sports that have shared equipment. So if you're throwing a baseball to somebody,
right,
you can't clean it in between people touching it. So it's those guidelines. When you start thinking about what swim lessons would look like, I just can't see running swim lessons, having kids 6 feet apart and the swim instructor
right,
from them as well.
And I did put in the plan that as far as this phase 1 of the beach opening, there would be no swim lessons and no consideration for it until further notice, especially receiving the guidelines that I just received for youth programs.
okay.
Can that location be a swim at your own risk with no lifeguards? Or is that too deep of a rabbit hole?
Cricket.
Sorry, hold on. What was that again?
Can it be open as a swim at your own risk without lifeguards there? I don't, it may not be, that's just something that popped in my head.
Is that a question for our town attorney maybe, or is that even not worth the gamble?
That was just an off the cuff.
Yeah, no.
Maybe it should have stayed in my brain.
What, Karen, the more we go around, what I'm hearing here is like, if we were to end this meeting right now, it doesn't seem like we have a clear plan, a sustainable amount of product to open on any specific day. I think just gets meeting to meeting gets pushed out. So whatever we hear, governor, however we're able to get sanitizers and whatnot. It's just, you know, I know a lot of people love it, and it just doesn't seem like we're anywhere near it right now.
No, I agree. I agree.
I think opening swim at your own risk could be very problematic as well.
Yeah.
It's a precedent too, because then how can we go back to bringing lifeguards in, charging people,
Right.
you know, next year?
So the question then becomes, how much time do we want? Is there either one of you comfortable saying they want the beach, that you want to make a motion to open the beach at this point? Or
I feel like Chief Brody in Jaws right now.
because my next question is going to be, how much work, this is a lot of work for Kayla, and
Yeah.
it's time consuming on every front. Do we want her to keep pushing forward where we're at a position now where we don't have any control over when we can get the supplies? We still have to deal with the cleaning aspect, if it even makes sense, even on that side of things. Do we want her to keep pushing forward and trying to come up with a solid plan? Or do we want to do what the town of Shirley did or their Benjamin Hill pool and call it a day now and not entertain it again down the road?
I mean, I'd like to see if we can open it, you know, I mean, like mid-July, something like that. But then just have a date. Like if we're not comfortable or set by July 15th, then, you know, that's it. Because that would still give us 7 weeks, right? You could do
And
some lessons.
it could always stay open on the weekends anyway, we usually
Yeah.
close around the time school starts, but it
Right.
could certainly stay open for a weekend or two if we needed it to. I think you put that request, the seasonal employee, did that get approved, Kayla? The seasonal employee? So I think that was put in through the middle of September.
Yes.
So, I mean, we could squeak in some weeks there.
Because you said the cleaning stuff gets here, say, the end of June.
What is the cleaning stuff that we'd be waiting on? I mean, could we not figure out another way to get cleaning supplies?
It's just not available, Susanna. Kit works on that every day.
Yeah.
Every day. Elaine Peterson's been working on it as well.
Okay.
We have some really good vendors, but it's dribs and drabs, and
Right.
we just now have completed a station to station at each building,
Right.
which and we don't know, unfortunately, when the next wave of deliveries are going to come, or actually how much we're going to get in each delivery. So there's even a concern about the sustainability, and Heather could speak to it better than I in terms of, you know, the difficulties making the jump from full staff to then open to the public, which I don't know the percentages, but it's certainly going to increase the need for those, for that stuff, those products.
I hate to be a downer, but I feel like we might go the way of Shirley if I had to vote right this minute.
I agree for a variety of different reasons, but if we would be struggling to get the needed supplies now, I think we'd be faced with opening, and then if we run out of supplies, we're closing, and that's not what I want to do either. You know, again, this is a lot of work for somebody to be working on, and yeah, I'm concerned, and I felt like we needed to do some due diligence and at least discussing and seeing if we could make it work. But at the same time, I'm also realistic in that I'm not sure we can. I don't know if I'm safe.
So if the supplies are limited, like what if we just try to do lessons when the state allows us to do lessons? and that's it. Because the kids have already lost so much, I just like hate for them to lose a year of swimming, and and even if it's just lessons and that's it, and even if it can't start till August, like August 1st or something, run it like 4 weeks, 5 weeks, whatever it is, and then pack it up. But the supplies we have would just be for that. What are lessons? 3 hours a day total, something like that?
Well, I mean, if we don't know, in the past, it's been 2 hours. I believe it's been from 10 to noon. And they've been run every 30 minutes. So, new groups of kids come in every 30 minutes.
We probably have to do like 45 though, because there'd have to be a buffer if we were going to do that, right? So you'd have a half-hour lesson, 15-minute clear them out, bring the new kids in. Yeah.
And
But,
if the beach is empty though, too, John, it would open up. You could have all day if you wanted. And in the past, when we went through some rate increases a couple of years ago, the rates were increased enough that it was covering the cost of our programs, the best that I could tell on the number that I had. Kayla could certainly look at putting together a swim program that would be self-funded. Obviously we wouldn't have beach passes per se, because people aren't going to buy a pass in order to do just lessons, but they would may be interested in paying for just lessons. Kayla, do you think something like that would be doable if we don't open the beach, to be able to pull off a swim lesson program sometime in August if the state restrictions allow?
I mean, I with the current restrictions, in the guidelines that came out, I would say no. But if for some reason they were to change, just because even in shifts, the type of equipment that the staff will have to wear, and how the shifts would have to be staggered, and if we were going to charge a fee for it, the type of fee that it would be, and then hiring staff saying that they're just teaching lessons. But it's more so the current guidelines that are out there. I couldn't say 100% yes. I mean, if the beach wasn't open, having the whole day to do shifts would certainly open it up a little bit more than having the beach open and trying to schedule lessons. But I just was not fully looking into all of the guidelines 100% in depth, because I was looking at the general beach ones for this. I can't comfortably say yes.
Should we?
I mean, I have no problem.
See.
I mean, I have no problem taking another week or two and still trying to get in touch with Jim and Kit and trying to figure out that route, and if there was a possible date in July, and in a week or two letting more detailed options and things like that. But I just don't know if a week or two will still vet out all the concerns that we have about spacing and equipment and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's kind of feels like opening the beach, to everyone, not going to work. But, even like groups of 4 kids or something like that for lessons, and just run it, 6 hours a day, something like that, if that's even feasible, but just something to.
Oh, that's interesting. Like a smaller group of kids in lessons and for more of the day, because. Yeah.
John, have you seen the recommendations that have come out for, let's use the example of camps?
No, it's loaded.
It's loaded, and I look at it and I honestly wonder how swim lessons could be conducted, especially at the younger ages where the instructors can be hands-on, and follow those guidelines. I mean, they've got daycare kids basically playing in individual stations because they don't want them too close together. I just don't know how it would work so that the kids would get enough benefit of that, of those lessons.
As I understand the guidance that's been put out, it's based on the phase that we're in. So I think as we go along in the phases, the restrictions will be lessened. For instance, by phase 4, restaurant and their bars will be open and indoor seating, versus now there's these very stringent restrictions on only outdoor seating and outdoor service. But as we go along, so maybe by August, like you said, maybe there would be the possibility that there'd be, these restrictions won't be as imposing as they are right now. And there would be that ability.
Timeline wise on the town side, Heather, we're clearly not opening, we're not making any decisions tonight to open the beach. There's just, I don't think the three of us are anywhere near comfortable making that. But timeline wise on the town side, what I'm finding from the state is that they're releasing information very close to when the next phase is opening, which means that if we got to phase 3, stage 4, whatever, by late summer, we may have a very short window of time that we're going to see those guidelines come out with whatever the restrictions are. Is it something that's doable in a very short time frame? Being aware of the fact that the Board of Selectmen have to take a vote on hiring, and they don't meet, say, the last week of July. Is it even doable if we don't open until August and have to make a last minute decision?
Yeah, I can't say. I can say historically what's happened is the guidance has come out very near, or, literally like a week before the phase. So we are kind of scrambling to address all the requirements. So if maybe as they go along, they'll get better at that, I can't say.
Okay. All right. I personally, speaking only for myself, am not comfortable making a decision to open the beach at this point. Having gone through the regulations that have come out in the last, I can't even say the last week, it's really been since Monday. I'm not comfortable doing it. If somebody else is, speak up and we can hear you out on what your thought process is.
I think just keeping it open-ended for the lessons and try to salvage something for them if we can. I don't know, like timeline for that, like when the final date we have to decide by, maybe after 4th of July weekend or something, we'd have to know, like, can we do this or not come August 1st? And if we can't, then, if by that point, mid-July, if we can't do it, then, that's it.
Yep.
So
I agree with that. I'm good waiting until, the first week or 2 of July, reconvening and having one last discussion on whether or not we can actually make it work. I would like to, since we do have three folks that are here from the public, just open it up for a second and see if anybody has any public comment that they want to make at this point, or if they have anything that, to offer in this discussion. I have no idea how to unmute you, Mr. Passios.
Actually, the way the meeting is set up, I was able to unmute
Perfect.
myself.
All right.
I kind of
Mr.
thought,
Passios.
thank you. Just like to make 2 comments. I don't disagree with whoops, my screen went blank there for a second. I don't disagree with the conversation of the last 5 or 10 minutes. I apologize. I got out of work late today, so I missed more or less what you guys talked about previously. So I'm not going to make any comments one way or the other because I haven't heard all of the discussion, but I do agree with what you've said in the last few minutes. I would hate to see you pull the plug on it completely for the season at this point. I think mid-July is a good point to set a line in the sand, sort of say, and decide once and for all, okay, this is doable or it's not, and pull the plug then if it's not. I would like to make a comment about sanitizer and that type of the types of equipment required going forward. I'm in purchasing in private industry. It has been a struggle to get the materials that are required, but specifically hand sanitizer it's becoming available more and more every single day, every single week. It's all in what you want to pay for it. It's there and it's quality stuff, but the prices are jacked up where it's available. I just wanted to make that statement. And on the municipal side, it may be a little more difficult to procure that stuff, whereas on the private side, you've got a little more flexibility on how you go about it. Those are my comments at this point, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Anyone else before I move on to our next agenda topic? All right, so I'm inclined at this point, since we don't have a strong opinion, or we don't have a strong urge to open the beach, let's let things stay the way they are. We can let the public know that we plan on meeting again. We'll set the meeting date before we log off tonight so that we can actually give a date. This is the first time in, I think this is my 3rd or 4th year on the Park Commission. The number of emails that I've gotten inquiring about beach opening has surprised me. I never get them. Usually I get the, have you updated the website yet? Or your website's not updated. Now I'm getting the, when are you opening? So I'd like to be able to tell people that we're going to talk about it again and give them the date of when we're going to talk about it again, so they have a better idea. So unless somebody else has anything else, we can move on just to general field discussion. All right, perfect. Heather, does that sound all right on your end? All right, perfect. Perfect, thank you. General field discussion. Heather, I'd like you to chime in on this. The fields are open. The only thing on the park side that I believe is closed is the playgrounds, correct?
Correct. Yes, in the basketball court.
Okay, so the basketball court is closed.
Yeah.
I thought
Well, there was mention of open space at.
that should be.
Sorry, Heather?
The basketball court and playground should be able to open next week. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can now. Okay, so those two will open, but the fields have been open. So there's no, what they're closed to, if you want to even use that word, is the organized sports programs that either the recreation department would put on or our youth or adult programmings. John, there is no plan this year to do an adult softball program, correct?
No.
Okay. So really we're looking at the Little League and the Phillies. And I think that we're going to be, they are going to be bound by the guidelines that came out from the state, which again, I just can't envision them being allowed to be on the fields anytime soon, but I don't think you need anything from us, Kayla, to open those fields. I think when the state allows and you have a plan in place from them, a safety plan, that you can go ahead and make that decision that they can use that field because they're not closed. Does that make sense?
And they're lined and everything. They're all tuned up.
We don't do the lining.
Okay, they do it. Okay.
They do it, and as Jack said at the beginning, the infields may need to be touched up, but he has been maintaining the grass, the turf.
They're playable right now. They're playable.
Okay.
And Kayla, will you keep on top of so yeah, they're going to open, but there's dugouts and there's what our responsibility in cleaning is going to be, because that, again, that could hinder the allowance of them using the fields. And maybe we will be faced with having to make a decision that we can't allow organized activity on that field if we can't get what we need to clean those common facilities.
Yeah, so the Phillies already submitted to me their control plan about how they would go about having a season. And I plan to ask Little League to submit one as well. to see what they plan to do on their part to follow the guidelines. And then I'm working on one from our standpoint, but I want to touch base with Jim from Board of Health to ask him those type of questions that you just asked me, about if we're permitting the field, what is are we responsible for sanitizing it, or is the individual group responsible for sanitizing it? So that's one of my big questions that I'm hoping to hear back from Jim on. And Heather, I'm not sure if that's something that you might know, but I haven't had time to look through the Phillies, the whole control plan from the Phillies. I plan to do that tonight after the meeting. That way I can touch base with Joe tomorrow and just let him know where we stand, because I had told him in the beginning of the week I'd let him know on Friday. And the same with Steve. I had let Steve know that I'd touch base with him tomorrow and just kind of where we stand as far as the organized activity on the fields.
Okay. And along with that, you'll have to, I guess, worry or be aware of the fact that the Phillies don't, but the Little League program has used the snack bars at both of those, and you know, making the decision that is best for the residents of this town and the people that would be down there, as well as, you know, park staff in terms of having to clean anything. If we would have to be responsible for going in to clean something, that may change whether or not they have access to those facilities. I did want to, and I have this agenda item down as just general field discussion. I was down at the field over at Marshall Park over the weekends after receiving some pictures from one of the residents. We have a broken window that I believe DPW was going to repair over at the snack bar at Marshall. But I want to express, I suppose, publicly that we need to somehow do a better job at getting the organizations that are using our fields to respect the properties in a way that they're not leaving things. When I was down there, there was a propane tank that was left there. That's extremely concerning to me, especially given the fact that there's some investigations going on around the bathhouse that would have belonged to the Little League. Things like that should never have been left out. So we need to make sure, I feel, that when we are working with these organizations, that they understand that it's their responsibility to get these things picked up. It was their responsibility to have porta potties removed from the locations, and probably shouldn't have been sat all winter long, because as far as I can see, nobody's been down there to check those from either the Little League organization or from whoever owns those porta potties. So I'm just throwing that out there. I just was a little dismayed to see broken windows happen, whoever was down there, whatever they did. I was a little bit more dismayed to see that there was a grill still down there with an attached propane tank. So,
Well, the window's boarded up, Karen, and the tank is gone.
thank you. Thank you.
And I can tell you, I did talk to Steve about all of that.
Okay.
And he did tell me that they were supposed to pick up the porta potty, 3 of them actually last summer, and they haven't. But when I talk to him after this meeting, I'm going to make sure he's on top of them for picking it up. And I did touch base with him about the other stuff that was left out, the grill with the propane tank, and letting him know that can't happen.
We talk about this location, and the biggest complaint that I hear from people all the time is that it's isolated, that we can't see the kids when they're out there. It's why when we talk about putting in a skateboard park and that location is mentioned, everyone's like, we can't do it there because nobody can see the kids from there. It's not an easy location to visually see them. Well, that's fine, but when we leave stuff out like this, it's the same situation. We have kids that go down there. Clearly, we have them going down there, whether they're kids or young adults, starting, a little bit of trouble, doing what kids do best, and we can't assist them in leaving things out that I mean, if that propane tank had been involved in anything, it would have come back to us. It would have come back to us. It just made no sense to me that that's been sitting there, and it's been sitting there for a couple of years, because I don't believe they've been able to use that grill for a few years now, because I don't believe they have the proper Board of Health clearance to serve food that's cooked on that grill. So that's my piece on that issue.
I was going to answer your question about the use and cleaning of the cleanup. I would say you can make that part of your control plan, and what if you have a user agreement with the organization, that's their responsibility. When they get there and when they leave, they have to sanitize whatever surface areas that would have been touched, and that would be for anyone. If the town were to use it, it'd be the same. When you get there, clean. When you leave, clean. Okay.
I just wasn't sure we were able to delegate that out to them. So I'm glad to know that something that we could put in they could have in their plan, because, it just adds on additional expense and more time from somebody who doesn't have enough time, in Jack's department to go over there to have to clean something. So that's good to hear.
If you want to verify that with Jim when you talk to him, Kayla, but I think as long as there's a plan for how it's going to be done, then it should satisfy.
Okay. Excellent. Do either of you have anything on the field front that you want discussed?
I don't.
Good.
Just-
John?
Fitzgerald, and if it would be available to Little League and softball at any point. If not, I don't think it's an issue, because if we do play, it's the summer. So the games can be scheduled. We just have more flexibility than in the spring when they have school, and, weeknights are tough and everything's packed, but I was just curious about that.
Do you have any plans, Jack, on the outfield of Fitzgerald for the summer, or will that be a later project once we know what we're going to do with that field?
That's the answer to the question right there. I think this committee is going to enter into a town-wide reorganization or redevelopment, not only with Marshall, but I think Fitzgerald will be part of that. In the meantime, as I said, we've been keeping it mowed. The infield would need some work, but the size of the kids that play down there wouldn't be hampered if we wanted to open it up later in the year. But I'm going to wait for some direction from the board and the commission and new commission members to see what they'd like to see there in the future.
So, John, I guess my answer to you on that would be, if the Little League is looking to put a softball program out there, if they're comfortable with the condition of the outfield, which has been in question because it needs some rehab out there, that I would say have them put in a request to Kayla to use the field. And there is no fall program that I know of that uses that field, so work could be delayed a little bit and be done in the fall, so that you could utilize it this summer if they're, and it would probably be only a 4 to 6 week program anyway at this point, right?
Yeah, 6, probably 4 weeks of games and maybe 2 weeks of practices, if that. And it might, we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, if we can get these kids out on to a field, that to me would be the best thing that we can do for them at this point. We can't send them back to school.
All right.
If we can give them some sort of organized activity to play, I'd be in support of that. So I would say talk to Kayla, and if we can, I don't think we're doing anything immediately at Fitzgerald anyway, so it wouldn't be a big deal if we didn't do anything through the summer on it.
Yeah, and that age group rarely hits the ball into the outfield anyway, so everything's really on that gravel infield.
Okay, excellent. All right, somewhere in here I lost a whole bunch of notes. All right, so I think that was all on the field front, unless anybody else has anything to add. Even anybody from the public, if you have anything to add, put your hand up and I'll grab you.
So
All right.
Karen,
Yep.
Karen, just so I'm clear, or to the other members, so I'm clear, we're on hold with the fields as well in terms of organized activity.
Correct. And as soon as, I don't think Kayla needs approval from us because we haven't closed the fields to start programming. As soon as the state requirements are met, Kayla should be able to make that decision to move ahead and get those teams going. Because again, I think based on what the state has, the information they've put out, it comes so close to when the actual start date of that next phase, the timeline's going to be pretty slim. So as long as all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed in terms of meeting the state requirements, the minimum state requirements, she should be good to get some programming out there, both on behalf of the Parks and Rec Department and the youth sports.
Thanks.
Good with that? All right. Anybody have public or board comment? Let me start with the board. John or Susanna, any board comment?
Nothing to say.
Okay, excellent. Mr. Passios, do you think you needed to raise your hand? I knew you had a comment. All right, so this time, Mr. Passios, you need to tell us who you are and where you are from.
Yep.
Go right ahead.
Dave Passios, 56 Whiting Street, Lunenburg, Massachusetts. Just wanted to offer the two dates. June 15th, I believe that's Monday. Yes, June 15th will be the next Board of Health meeting. If there's anything that the local board can help to expedite anything that's in the works that seems to be dragging out a little bit longer than it should through the associated board, please don't hesitate to either chime in on that meeting or contact one of us board members, because we do have direct access to Jim. And if you're not getting the answers you need, we will find a way to get answers without overloading him any more than he already is overloaded. Secondly, personally, I will be on that board at least until June 22nd. So I personally can work on expediting or getting answers to questions up until at least that date. That's my comment for now. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to take the opportunity again to thank Mr. Palumbo for the last year of service he's given to us. I said at the last meeting, I didn't think we'd be meeting again before you were done, but I can guarantee we did, and I can guarantee we will not be meeting again before the election, which happens to be on the 20th of June. So thank you so much for your service.
You're very welcome. Thank you all. I enjoyed it.
So I'm going to ask Mr. Passios to chime in on this one as well, in case there's a conflict. Currently, I believe you are the only person running for this seat for the Parks Commission. So unless somebody's running a huge write-in campaign, I have a feeling we may be welcoming you next month. So as we look forward.
I'd just like to make a comment that's never a given. That's why signs are going up around town.
That is very true. That is very true. So as we look at our schedule going forward, I would like to put something on the calendar so that we have a date that we can at least say to folks that we are meeting on this date. Susanna, what is the best day of the week for you?
Thursdays or Fridays, for sure.
Thursdays or Fridays. What if we did this? No, can't do that one. My suggestion would be either to do the 9th of July or the 17th of July, starting no earlier than 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock on the 9th is good.
Does that work for you, Kayla?
I have,
Yep.
Sorry. I thought you were going
Okay.
somewhere else.
Nope, go ahead. Dave, work for you?
Yeah, Finance Committee is second and fourth Thursday of each month, if I have that correct.
For you?
Unless we do it early.
I can do the 16th. The problem is I have another meeting at 6:30. That's usually, so if we did it on the 16th, I guess I'd be asking if we could do 7:30 so I could get through the meeting that I have at 6:30 first.
Time of day doesn't usually affect me as long as it's not directly in conflict with Finance Committee. My other commitments are rather flexible, and TCP, I really believe that's going to be a limited number of meetings, and Monday seems to be settling in as a good day for most of them. And if I'm off the Board of Health, which would be required if I'm elected to this board, then I'll have Mondays wide open.
Okay,
I can do Monday. I can do a Monday.
Monday?
Yeah, let's do Monday then.
Let's do Monday the 3rd.
I would love to have it not be at 7:30 p.m.
That's fine, that's fine.
Okay.
Trust me, I have little ones too. What time works best for you, Susanna?
If it's a Monday, 5 or 6 or 6:30.
Can we do 5, Mr. Passios?
Most days, yeah. If I know enough in advance, I'll just set my schedule so I'm available. If I had been smart today, I would have stayed at work and I could have been on time. But
We can move to 6 o'clock. Want to do 6 o'clock on the 13th?
Yep.
Kayla, does that work for you?
That's fine.
Jack?
Always.
And Heather, if you want to come, you're welcome to come. So we're going to go with July 13th at 6 p.m. for our next meeting. We will definitely have the beach on the agenda. As always, I will shoot out an email beforehand to see if anybody has anything further. All of that said, I think I'm ready to take a motion to adjourn at 6:14.
Second.
Well, I can make the motion, that's fine.
Oh, sorry.
I would have made it, it's fine, it's fine. So I gotta do a quick roll call on this for the vote on this. John?
Aye.
Susanna?
Aye.
And an aye for myself, so we are all set, folks. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody. See you next month.
All right, good luck, Dave.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
Good luck to
Bye.
you too,
Bye.
John. Bye.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks.
Bye.